Alright, time to get back on these Power Rangers reviews. It's been a while, so let's talk about Power Rangers Zeo. This is where we left off. So, ow, hit my foot. Made a power protect my foot, okay? Go power foot. Anyway, after the events of the previous season, the My Morphin Alien Rangers saga, the command center was destroyed thanks to Rito and Goldar in a big explosion. Now the Rangers are left alone. They have no powers, no Zordon, no Alpha, nothing. But they find the Seal Crystal. It seems that Goldar and Rito weren't able to get out with it. And we'll find out about them a little bit later. So they find the Seal Crystal, and they use that. It seems that the command center is rebuilding itself, but it's actually the Power Chamber, which is the new place of where the Power Rangers. It's the new set basically for the next 2 seasons, and it has the old suits set up in little chambers and stuff. It's pretty cool. And we get the new color designations. Billy has opted out of being a Ranger and would rather, be a tech guy, which is what he's good at. Although there were some things behind the scenes that may have influenced that. We'll get to that later. And so now, the other 5 Rangers get their color designations. Kat is still the Pink Ranger. Tanya is the Yellow Ranger, which is what she swapped with Aisha for. Adam, now instead of the Black Ranger, he is the Green Ranger. Rocky is not the Red Ranger anymore, he's the Blue Ranger, and Tommy is no longer the White Ranger, he's the Red Ranger. And they don't have time to breathe, because now a new enemy has come. The Machine Empire, led by King Mondo, with his wife Machina, and their youngest son, Sprocket. We meet his eldest son, Gasket, and his wife Archerina later in the season. But, yes. And they brought their, what are they called? Cogs, I think they're called. They do this. The little baddies do this. And this kind of, despite the fact that Lord Zed and Rita clearly won at the end of the previous saga, they're not the main bad guys. In fact, Lord Zed and Rita are more like that fly that won't leave you alone. You're trying to do something over here, but the fly comes in. That's what they are. They're trying to deal with the Machine Empire, and then Lord Zed and Rita will come poke them in the chest or something. They create a purse monster at one point, and a rocket ship called Louis Kaboom, which turns on them. But yeah, they're throughout. And that's a good segue into what happens with Rito and Goldar. Rito and Goldar lose their memory and become sort of slaves, or sort of monster helpers for Bulk and Skull. And then Bulk accidentally gets them fired from the police patrol, and he and Skull, they become, with Lieutenant Stone, they become detectives. And that plays out for the rest of the season into a cliffhanger where they're going to go to Paris, which doesn't happen because they're in Turbo and they're back in the patrol and other stuff happens. We'll get to that. But yes. Tommy goes through a big storyline in this season that amounts to absolutely nothing in the long run, because what they were doing with this storyline was to build towards the Gold Ranger. I have made my mind on this. Now, what am I talking about? Well, Tommy in the when he went on his little Zeo quest in the Alien Rangers, we found out that he has Native American background, and he got this half an arrowhead. Here he goes on a multi-episode story arc and finds his long-lost brother David, played by Jason David Frank's real-life brother Eric Frank. And he has the other half of the arrowhead. Now, shortly after this, storyline, we get the appearance of the Gold Ranger. Now, I'm going to say it was cool for them to kind of flesh out Tommy's story. I mean, he's been the focus. Like, he's one of the most popular characters on the show, so he's going to have a lot of focus. He does have another great two-parter later, but it was nice to kind of flesh out his backstory and give more to his family, because, we've seen Aisha's mom before, Kimberly's mom, we've seen other people's parents here and there, but Tommy, not so much. He's kind of the outsider. So this was kind of cool to find out he has a brother. Now, what I talk about with Gold Rangers, the Gold Ranger shows up, and this is a big mystery thing. And it's the first time they really did something like this, where, the White Ranger came in, but Jay knew it was kind of gonna be Tommy, most likely. But here you don't know who the Gold Ranger is. And they give us 3 red herrings in trying to figure out who he is. That none of them end up being the Gold Ranger. First and foremost, the obvious choice, Billy, who during one episode disappears when the Rangers try to contact him and the Gold Ranger shows up. They think he's the Gold Ranger, but it turns out he was working on something in the Sword Bay, working on something in a workshop or something, and it's never really fully told what it was, but fans have led to speculate that he was working on the Turbo Zords, which makes sense. Next was Skull. Yes, that Skull. During one episode, Skull disappears when the monsters attack and the Gold Ranger shows up. It doesn't come back till after the Gold Ranger is gone, leading Bulk to suspect that Skull is the Gold Ranger. He's not. And then there's David, another obvious choice. During one episode, the Rangers and David does find out that Tommy is the Red Ranger, by the way. And that right there is another reason why I think he was supposed to be the Gold Ranger. Because they did the same thing with Rocky, Aisha, Adam, and Kat. But Kat was more of an evil storyline. But Rocky, Aisha, and Adam, they found out who the Rangers were. And then eventually became Rangers. So I think that's what they were planning on doing. They had all the signs leading towards it. In this particular episode, though, they were in the ocean, on the beach, or whatever. And the monsters attack, so David goes, to the side while the others morph and stuff. Then the Gold Ranger shows up and they can't find David. And then David shows up after the Gold Ranger leaves. But that all leads to nothing, because the Gold Ranger is actually Trey from Treforia. He's an alien, and each Treforian has 3 different versions of themselves inside them, and he splits into 3 and can no longer hold the Gold Ranger powers, so they have to give it to someone else. Of course, they go for the obvious choice of Billy, but due to the fact that he absorbed a lot of energy from the explosion of the command center, he's not able to acquire a power, and that played into his exit. We'll get there. So you think the next logical choice would be David. Tommy even says, "I know the perfect person," which would leave everyone, even as a kid, it was cool to see who it was come back, but as an adult, I'm like, it should have been David. And the only thing I can think of is that Eric Frank decided he didn't want to be the Gold Ranger, because they bring Jason back, he becomes the Gold Ranger, and then David sort of just disappears and is never mentioned again. And that leads me to believe he declined to be a Ranger, and it's like, okay, we're just gonna ignore you now. Well, it's cool to have Jason back. The finale, though, there's that 2-parter, there's a Ranger of Two Worlds 2-parter, bring back the Equation Ranger. There's also King for a Day. And there's another reason why I think it was supposed to be David, because the Gold Ranger is the one that snaps Tommy out of his hypnotism, his amnesia, whatever. He's the one that snaps out of it. And, they wrote the Gold Ranger to do it. I think it was supposed to be David, but they had Jason, and probably why they brought Jason in, because, best friends, almost like brothers. So it works. The finale isn't really a finale. The Gold Ranger powers are starting to fade from Jason, and so they bring Trey back. They fuse him back into one, and then he gets the powers back, and Trey makes them all grow real big, and they fight off the Machine Empire, but they're still alive, and then Lord Zed and Rita blow them up, and presented that Lord Zed and Rita are going to be the villains for next season, but they're not. And then the Gold Ranger says goodbye. Now, before I go, let's talk about Billy. David Yost, who played Billy for 4 seasons of the show, was getting ridiculed by crew members for being gay, and decided he was going to leave the show. The show did not handle this very well. Much like with Jason, Zach, and Trini's exit 2 seasons earlier, he was already gone by the time they decided to do this episode. So, the episode has an old man. Due to the aging machine from the Alien Ranger saga, Billy has aged into an old man. They bring the Equestria Rangers in to help, and he goes to Aquitar to get help for it. He gets turned back, but what we see is the viewing globe, very distorted, and a voice that's obviously not David Yost, saying he's going to stay on Aquitar because he's fallen in love with some other Aquitar girl that I don't even know if we were introduced to beforehand. Maybe he mentioned her before, because there is times that he went there, the character did, but who knows. He stays behind, and that's the goodbye. They play like clips of Billy and Blue Ranger, whatever, in the credits, but that was it. You know it's not really him. It's not his voice. They had to find some way to write him out. It's a shame that happened, but you know, I would love to see him come back for like a reunion episode or something. Overall, Zeo's not a bad season. I think it works as a transition season. What comes after this is not so good. But I think it works to transition from Mighty Morphin to this. I think it works. And yeah, it's not bad. So what are your thoughts on Power Rangers Zeo? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty. Tomorrow, hopefully, I'll take on Power Rangers Turbo. But until then, may the power protect you.